Stop. 2 words have shaped your hair for the last 20 years, and you have said them in a salon chair more times than you could count. Something easy. You mean it kindly. It is your way of saying you do not want to be any trouble. But a stylist cannot cut a feeling, so she gives you the safest shape she owns, and you walk out with the same round outline you walked in with, 1 visit heavier. I call that the easy cut. Nobody chooses it. Today, I am giving you 5 haircuts to ask for by name instead, none of which has ever been offered to you, plus the 1 sentence that should replace those 2 words at your next appointment. Near the end, 3 habits that quietly rebuild the easy cut within weeks. This channel is for looking sharper and feeling lighter after 60, so tap like and subscribe. The cape goes on. She turns you toward the mirror, asks what you were thinking today, and you answer the way you have answered for 20 years in the friendliest voice you own. Something easy. Underneath those 2 words sits a whole set of instructions you never actually said out loud. You do not want a fuss made over you. You would rather she did not spend her entire afternoon on this. And the last thing you want is to become the sort of woman who cannot leave the house without an hour and a round brush. She hears none of it. What reaches her is an absence. No shape has been named, no length, nothing about direction, and she has 40 minutes and a person in the chair who has just told her in the politest possible way not to take any risks. So she keeps what is already on your head and shortens the ends of it. What comes back is a round perimeter, 1 length the whole way around, and nothing anywhere in the shape to interrupt the eye. Turn your head to the left, and it matches the right. From behind, it matches both. That is the easy cut. Stylists have a term you have almost certainly never been offered, and it explains more about your reflection than any product ever will. The weight line, it means the horizontal band where your hair reads heaviest, and it marks the exact point where somebody's eye stops traveling when they look at you. In the easy cut, that band sits low and round, roughly level with your jaw. Somebody looks at you, their attention drifts downward along the shape, reaches that heavy edge and settles there because nothing above it is asking for a second look. Your face has not become heavier. Your haircut is simply pointing everybody toward the lowest part of it. No haircut changes anyone's age, and I am not going to pretend to you that one can. What a haircut changes is where the light falls on your face and where somebody's eye comes to rest on it. And those are the things people are quietly reading when they glance at a stranger and form an impression in half a second. You never chose this shape. Nobody has ever sat down in a salon and asked for it by name because it does not arrive in one appointment. It accumulates. Every visit where somebody took the easy request at face value, handed it back to you a little rounder than the visit before, and after 12 years of that, it starts to look like something that happened to your face rather than something that happened to your hair. Think about how much else you get right, though. You took 3 trips to decide on that coat, and you were correct about it. There was a lipstick you kept looking for until you found it, after 2 that were wrong. Even on an ordinary Tuesday when nobody is coming over, you still put yourself together properly. And then this, sitting on top of all of it, quietly disagreeing. 5 cuts, counting down, each one moving that weight line somewhere, it does more for you. Start with the one that does not cost you a single inch of length. Number 5, the butterfly cut. This is for the woman who has spent the last 10 years being told she really ought to just cut it all off and who has quietly decided she is not going to. You do not have to. A butterfly cut puts 2 different layer lengths inside one haircut. Short pieces around your face at the front. long layers running through everything else, and the join between them blended so carefully that from behind nobody can tell where one stops and the other begins. Your length stays exactly where it is, every inch of it. Your weight line is what moves. Rather than sitting down at your perimeter, wherever that currently falls, it climbs to your cheekbone because that is the point where the shortest front pieces end. The eye now catches high on your face instead of sliding past it toward your jaw. That shortest front piece is the whole haircut. Stylists call it the face framing layer. And getting its length right is the difference between a cut that lifts your face and one that does absolutely nothing. So ask for it at the cheekbone. If it lands at your chin instead, and this is where the cut usually goes wrong, you have simply rebuilt the round outline you came in to escape, except now there are steps carved into it. The whole point of a shorter front is that it stops somewhere the eye wants to look. Your chin is not that place. If your hair is fine, ask for fewer of these pieces, cut softly, because too many will thin the front out and start showing scalp along your part. Thick, coarse, or wavy hair can take considerably more, and the natural movement in it will hold the shape without a minute of heat. There is one woman this is wrong for, and she is easy to identify. If you wear your hair up most days, skip it. Those short front pieces slide straight out of every ponytail and every clip you own, and instead of framing anything, they just hang there beside your face. You will spend 6 months tucking them behind your ears and wondering why you bothered. Almost nobody will tell you how a cut grows out, so this is the most forgiving one on the list, by a distance. Those front pieces lengthen gradually toward your jaw over roughly 3 months and read as intentional the entire way down, with no stage where you avoid photographs. If you are nervous about committing to anything at all, that single fact makes this the sensible place to begin. Styling is smaller than the cut looks. One pass with a large barrel iron on the front pieces curling away from your face rather than into it, and leave the back alone entirely because those long layers underneath are already doing their own thing. Number 4, the bottleneck bob. The length in this one is almost beside the point. The fringe is doing the work, and if you get the fringe wrong, nothing else in the haircut can rescue it. The shape underneath is a bob sitting somewhere between your jaw and your collarbone, cut with a clean perimeter, nothing complicated. What sits across the front of it is a bottleneck fringe, and that is the part almost nobody can describe properly, so let me do it carefully. Picture the neck of a bottle, narrow and closed where it starts at your temples, then flaring open as it comes down towards your cheekbones. It sits in a soft arch across your forehead rather than a straight line, and it sweeps outward on both sides instead of hanging down over your eyes. Your weight line lifts all the way to the brow because that fringe is now the heaviest horizontal thing anywhere in your haircut, and nothing lower down is competing with it. What happens next is the reason this cut works. Somebody's attention arrives, gets caught in the top third of your face, and travels sideways across your brow and cheekbones rather than dropping toward your jaw. It happens in the first second, before anyone has consciously registered your hair at all. You have almost certainly been told that women your age should not have a fringe. That advice is not stupid. It comes from somewhere real. A heavy, blunt fringe cut straight across and lying flat against the forehead genuinely does look severe on a softening face. And it lays a hard band of shadow right across the area you most want light on. Anyone who has watched that happen to a client would warn you off it too. A bottleneck is open at the sides, separated through the middle, and lighter at every edge. It is a different object wearing the same name, which is why the warning does not apply to it. A high forehead takes a wider opening and more sweep at the sides, softening the height without hiding it. Hooded or deep-set eyes need the fringe kept clearly above the brow with visible skin between the two, because the moment it touches your lashes, it closes your eyes down and cancels everything the cut was doing for you. One thing to check before she starts. If you have a cowlick at your front hairline, this fringe will part itself down the middle within about an hour, and no amount of drying will persuade it to stay closed. Your stylist can feel 1 in 10 seconds, so ask her about it rather than finding out on the way home. Grow out runs on 2 different clocks with this cut. The fringe wants attention every 4 or 5 weeks, while the length is perfectly happy waiting twice that long. So book a fringe trim between your cuts instead of a full appointment. Most salons take 10 minutes over it and charge very little, and a fair few will do it for nothing if you are a regular. Styling is 1 minute with a dryer, moving the fringe side to side rather than straight down, and then you leave it alone. By the time you have found your keys, it is settled into its own shape, and it will hold that shape until you wash it. If this is already changing what you plan to say at your next appointment, subscribe. This channel covers exactly these kinds of fixes every single week. Number 3, the Italian bob. This one reads expensive from across a room without anything expensive being involved. The shape is chin grazing, cut blunt at the perimeter, with volume kept high through the back and a soft bend turning the ends inward. Short without being severe. There is a roundness to it, which is exactly why women who found the last 2 cuts too bold tend to land here instead. Your weight line sits at the chin, and it has to be put there deliberately. Clean, level, unmistakable. Attention arrives, settles on that line, and everything above it reads more defined for having a firm edge underneath. The failure mode is that this cut drops, and it drops faster than you expect. 6 to 8 weeks in, that chin line has slid past your jaw, and once it sits below the jaw, it stops working as a boundary and starts working as the bottom edge of a rounder shape, which is precisely the shape you walked in wanting to leave behind. That gives this haircut the strictest appointment rhythm on the list, so book the next one on your way out rather than deciding about it in October. Where the bulk comes out is the technical distinction that decides everything else. You want a blunt perimeter with the weight taken from beneath, invisible from the outside. Stylists call that invisible weight removal. And it means thinning under the surface so the bottom edge stays completely intact while the volume above it comes down. You may need to speak up at one specific moment. If your stylist starts stacking visible layers over the top to create movement, stop her before the second pass. That is where an Italian bob turns into a round helmet. And it happens in good salons to careful clients. Constantly. A rounder face keeps the length a touch longer, just below the chin, with the part slightly off-center rather than down the middle. A longer or more angular face can go shorter and keep the ends straighter, which balances out the vertical. Fine hair with low density should not attempt this one. A clean edge only looks solid when there is enough hair to fill it. So standing in daylight, you will see straight through the bottom and the cut will read sparse rather than sharp. If that describes your hair, wait for number 2, which was built for exactly that problem. Styling is a blow dry with the ends turned gently inward or a flat iron with a small bend on the last inch. Nothing beyond that. And the reason it looks polished even on hair that is not in perfect condition comes down to that edge, because blunt ends line up and throw light back along one continuous band where feathered ends scatter it in 20 directions at once. This is the haircut that makes people assume you have a very good stylist. Number 2, the feathered crop. Short hair does not age anybody. Short hair cut as one solid mass does. And those two things get confused constantly. A feathered crop is built from light tapered pieces of different lengths, with movement running through the top and a close, clean nape at the back. Nothing about it sits as a block. The technique behind it is slide cutting. Rather than closing the shears across a section, the stylist opens them slightly and travels down along it, so each piece thins gradually toward its end instead of stopping at a hard edge. That gradual thinning is what feathering actually is. And this cut does something none of the others do. It does not relocate your weight line, it takes it away. With no heavy horizontal band anywhere in the shape, there is nothing pulling downward at any point. So the hair sits away from your head rather than on it and moves whenever you turn. Most of what people register as youthful about a haircut is simply that lightness. If number 3 sent you here because your hair is fine, this is the reason. A crop is not asking a blunt edge to look full, so thinner hair reads as deliberate texture rather than as a gap you can see through. Some stylists reach for thinning shears to fake feathering, and thinning shears do not taper anything. They cut chunks out at random intervals along the section, leaving weakened ends that will neither lie flat nor stand up on hair that is finer than it used to be. In the chair on the day, both versions look fine. The difference turns up about 3 weeks later, and by then it is a growing out problem rather than a styling one. Horse hair with any wave in it is ideal here and needs almost nothing done to it because the natural bend holds the feathering open by itself. Very fine, straight hair needs the feathering kept light, or the ends start showing gaps rather than texture. Now, the honest catch, and it is really one catch wearing 2 hats, this shape has no long version of itself. It does not lengthen into something else the way the butterfly does. So around week 7, it simply loses its edges and starts reading shapeless. And there is no clever way to style around that, which means it only suits you if you can reliably get to a chair every 5 weeks or so. Say that to yourself out loud before you commit. Styling takes about 10 seconds. A little cream on the fingertips, raked forward and slightly to the side, no dryer and no brush at any point. The lightest cut here, the one that moves the most, and still not the one at number 1. Number 1, and if you take a single cut from this video to your next appointment, make it this one. The French bob with a soft fringe, short, blunt, sitting at your jaw or just above it with a light wispy fringe across the front. Every other cut on this list moves 1 horizontal line. This moves 2 at the same time. The perimeter comes up to your jaw. The fringe brings the top line down to your brow. And your whole face gets reframed between 2 new boundaries in a single appointment. That is why it takes first place, and nothing else here comes close to doing it. The detail that decides whether this reads modern or reads like something borrowed from a costume department almost never gets mentioned, so pay attention to it. The fringe corners. Those are the 2 points where your fringe ends and your length begins, 1 at each temple. Cut square and straight down, they read as a visor. Softened and angled slightly outward. So the fringe dissolves into the length rather than stopping dead against it. They give you the version you have admired on other women without being able to name what was different about it. Ask for soft corners, 2 words, and they change the entire cut. The fringe itself belongs above your brow, separated enough that you can see your forehead between the pieces, never a solid curtain lying flat across it. Straight, fine hair carries it wider across the forehead. Wavy hair needs it kept narrower because the wave will lift it. And a wide, wavy fringe means fighting for it every morning for the next year. I want to be direct with you about who should not have this haircut rather than encouraging. If you need the option of tying your hair back in summer, this is not your cut. There is no version of a French bob that goes into a ponytail, and by August you will resent it. And if you have a very short neck, jaw length can close up the gap between your chin and your shoulder rather than opening it, which works against you. Take the Italian bob at number 3 in that case, which gives you a similar line with more room underneath. The grow out deserves honesty more than any other cut here. A jaw-length blunt line stays a jaw-length blunt line for about 6 weeks, and the fringe starts asking for attention before that. It is the highest maintenance haircut on this entire list. And you should know that sitting at home this evening, rather than discovering it in a mirror in October, that is not me steering you away from it. That is so you choose it rather than fall into it. Short hair has been sold to women over 60 as surrender for about 50 years. Give up, cut it off, stop bothering with any of it. A French bob is the opposite of that in every respect. Nobody arrives at one by accident, and nobody keeps one without meaning to, which is why it reads as decisiveness on whoever is wearing it, whether or not anyone could tell you why. Styling is close to nothing. Air dry with a little cream through it, or 90 seconds with a dryer in your fingers, and the blunt ends handle the rest. You are allowed to want something that requires a decision. If that just made you sit up a little straighter, subscribe. This channel exists for exactly that moment. The countdown is finished, but we are not, because every one of these 5 cuts can be lost in the first 2 minutes of the appointment before a single snip. So let us go back to those 2 words. 2 words got you into this. 1 sentence gets you out. Something easy describes how you want the appointment to feel rather than what you want your hair to do afterward, and no stylist has ever managed to cut a feeling. So she falls back on the safest shape available, which is the one already sitting on your head. The sentence that replaces it has 3 parts, and out loud it sounds like this. I would like a bottleneck bob with the weight at my brow, and I will not be blow drying it. The first part names the cut, not a mood, not something fresher, not something that suits me, the actual name. A butterfly cut. A bottleneck bob, an Italian bob, a feathered crop, a French bob with soft corners. Then you tell her where the weight should sit. At my cheekbone, at my chin, at my brow. You have that vocabulary now, and I promise you almost nobody who sits in that chair does. Say it and watch her face change. The last part is the one women leave out, and leaving it out ruins more good haircuts than any other single thing. A stylist cutting for a daily blow dry that is never actually going to happen has built you a shape which only exists inside the salon. It looks wonderful when you leave. It is gone by Thursday, and then you decide the haircut was wrong when the haircut was fine. So tell her the truth. Maybe you air dry, or you have 5 minutes and not one more, or you are never going to own a round brush and you have made your peace with that. None of it is a confession. It is the most useful thing you can hand her, and a good stylist will be glad you said it. Bring photographs too. 3 of them, all of the same shape rather than 3 different ideas, and chosen for the outline of the hair rather than the woman underneath it. If you picked one because you liked her face, you are asking for something nobody can cut. Then, before she starts, 3 questions. Where exactly will the weight sit, and can you show me on my own hair? How will this hold its shape if I do not blow dry it? How will this look at 8 weeks? And what will have changed by then? A stylist who answers those specifically puts her hands in your hair to show you and tells you honestly what grows out first is somebody worth keeping for the next 20 years. One who tells you not to worry and that she will just tidy things up has answered you completely, and you should hear it. If that sentence just saved you from another year of the same shape, tap that like button. It helps more women over 60 find this. Now, the 3 habits I promised you at the start, each of them takes a good haircut and quietly rebuilds the easy cut on top of it. Start with booking a trim. Look at what that word actually asks for. Keep the existing shape. Remove the ends. That is its entire job description. So every appointment you book as a trim is an appointment spent carefully preserving the shape you came here to leave behind. If you want something different, the word is cut and it has to be said out loud. Then there is the round brush, rolled under, all the way around your head. Whichever of these 5 you walked out with, that one motion repeated every morning rebuilds the same rounded silhouette by lunchtime. Dry the front pieces away from your face. Use your fingers or a flat brush through the back, and keep the round brush for the ends if you use it at all. The last one is spraying the shape rigid. A haircut that does not move when you turn your head reads as a wig no matter how beautifully it was cut, because movement is most of the effect. If your hair holds its position when you shake your head, you have used too much and the cut underneath it has disappeared. One honest thing before we finish. If you have brought a clear brief to the same stylist 3 times and walked out with the same shape 3 times, that is not you failing to explain yourself. Some stylists cut one shape. Leaving a chair you have sat in for 15 years is uncomfortable, and it is allowed, and nobody is owed your loyalty over your reflection. The easy cut was never a haircut anybody designed. It is just the shape that grows into the space where a clear request should have been. For years, you have walked into that room and described what would be least trouble for everybody else. Something low maintenance, nothing complicated, just the usual please. And I suspect a version of that sentence has followed you a long way past your hair into what you order and what you let people do for you. Easy was never what you wanted. Easy was what you asked for so that nobody would have to work very hard on you. You are allowed to want the other thing out loud by name in a chair you are paying for. So tonight, stand in front of the mirror and put one finger on the place where your hair looks heaviest. That is your weight line. Then ask yourself one honest question. Is that where I want people to stop looking? Next time, we are covering the 3 hair colors that quietly add years and the ones that give them straight back. Tell me in the comments which of these 5 you are booking. Like this video, subscribe, and let us keep making this the season you ask for what you actually want.